16th of October 2016. That is the first time I uploaded onto this channel. Crazy, right? That's nearly 7 years ago. I couldn't believe it when I really started to engage in my videos more, all the way up until I think 14 days later, which was around the 30th of October when I posted my first build video. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is because I just want to show you guys the dedication that I have for this franchise and how long that, we've been sticking with The Division. It's been incredible. So firstly, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's supported this channel, always liking the video, subscribing, and just showing me a lot of support. I feel like without obviously you guys, then I wouldn't have got to the stage that I am today with this channel or with, my actual main business. I feel like that's what kind of brought me up to expand and branch out into other things. I really just wanted to explain why I'm not creating content for this game at the moment, or why I always say, okay, I'm gonna create a video, I'll be back, or I'm always saying that I'm returning after a month of not posting. I just feel like the Division franchise itself has, had a lot to offer. They've had a lot of potential, and I feel like for me, every time they release a new update or a little segment of, let's just say new weapons, new gear, that hype lasts for around 2 weeks. Now after that 2 weeks, it's like you just feel like there's nothing else to do. So 2 weeks of creating content, it just goes on your channel. Forget creating content, 2 weeks of just playing the game with your clan members or whatever, you just kind of feel like, yeah, like that's it. Like, okay, I'm gonna stop playing now and I'm gonna wait for another update. So that's been happening for quite some time with me, and I get very bored quickly with the franchise. But it's annoying because I love the franchise, and it's like I'll forever be waiting to see what else they bring. So when a new update comes out for Division 2, I think it's year 6 or something. I'm not really updated on everything, so just correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Like, I'm gonna be there for the update and I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna see what it's like I'm always gonna be there for the new things that they add because I love the franchise. But it's just in terms of constantly playing it, I find it very hard to stay by it all the time and create content for you guys. So having a franchise like this that was brought up from, let's start off with Division 1, to see where it's got to now is quite a disappointment. Because when we first got Division 1, I remember entering the beta. It was crazy seeing the new features of a game that you couldn't get somewhere else in another game. Was amazing because it was like so much smoothed down to the detail of like, yo, look at these shoes I can put on, yo, look at these outfits. And you'd go outside and be like, yo, look at the snow, man, look at the attention to detail. Like, it was so exciting. Like, little things would be exciting, and in any other game them little things are not usually that exciting. But it's just the Division had a different feel to it that other games couldn't grasp onto, if that makes sense. And I'm sure most of you would agree with me. It was a fresh game. Everyone's trying to figure out what's the best thing to use. The builds was more so out there in terms of diversity. You could really do a lot with what was in the game. Now when we fast forward to Division 2, it's like no builds or items in this game is that valuable, or the diversity and the variety of things that you can use it's just not there, because everyone will just use the same weapons, the Ouroboros. Everyone will run towards the meta. I understand in mostly all games, every game gets a meta, and it's like the main thing that people like to do to win, or the main thing people like to use to win. We understand that, but sometimes in other games or in other areas, you'll have that diversity of where people can use other things and still be able to win with that. But it depends on the skill of that player. In the Division 2, that's what we're missing, is skill. So you can literally just run into the dark zone, put on a tier 6 skill build, and just kill everyone around you and sit in cover. It's just like, for me, the transition from how Division 1 was, where you really needed that skill and you really needed to use certain builds to outplay someone, or the movement had to be on point. It's like Division 2, you don't really need that now. So I feel like that's why a lot of PvP players are, they're just not playing anymore. The difference between Division 1 and Division 2, early Division 1, I must say, is that you had more variety, diversity, and more fun. And that lasted for a very long time for me. I'd say up until 1.5 in Division 1. That's when I really had a lot of fun, and that's a lot of time. I just feel like as soon as it got to a certain stage with Division 1 and they stopped looking after the game like they said, stopped including the DLCs. That's when I kind of just let it go, and I was really disappointed. But when I heard Division 2 was coming out, that's when I was so excited. Division 2 dropped. The beta wasn't too bad. I was having fun in there too. The movement I really loved. Something wasn't there for me, and I know it's because I was loving Division 1. It just kind of felt like I was missing something. And obviously the Division 2 ended up being more playable in terms of the way things were with the state of life. Like, let's just say your map, you know, the loading times, even down to PvE was way better than Division 1 PvE. The comparison between the Dark Zone in Division 1 and Division 2, we all know who wins. Like, Division 1 wins by far, because the Dark Zone in there was just so fun. The amount of players that was in there was amazing. Like, you'd be running from a full server. I think it was around 24 players. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in Division 2, it's around, I think, 12 players in the Dark Zone. So it was like really narrowed down compared to how Division 1 was. So it changed a lot of factors for me, and I feel like that's what made me lose interest quite quickly. But what happened is, this is when Warlords of New York came out. So as soon as that dropped, I was like, oh yo, we got a whole new level, we got a whole new watch. So all of these new additions that they were adding was refreshing, and it was really fun. And I must say, that is the best part of Division 2 for me, was Warlords of New York. That's the best update. It was so fun, so many new items, so many new weapons. That update right there really elevated me to the stage that I'm at right now. And I'm not just talking about, you know, the content creation itself. It's the mindset of the Division franchise. Like, I was like, yo, if they could create another game just like this but 10 times better, man, I'm gonna love it. So that was always in my mind. And as well as the content creating, I loved making build videos. When everyone was chasing for that Lady Death, everyone wanted that new exotic, and then going into the Dark Zone, testing it out with their favorite build, switching things up with the new items, you know, making hybrid builds. Like, this is what the Division franchise is about, creating builds and figuring out what's best. And that's what I loved, because I love being that creative person who, you know, sees someone else with a build and it's like, all right, cool, what else can I make that might be a little bit better than them, or a little bit different, or let's make a build that's not been made. That was always my mindset, and I feel like Warlords of New York, it helped me to do that. So in terms of the whole franchise, that's just kind of how I feel about it. I feel like we are looking at some sort of good future for the franchise, but at the same time, I kind of feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get what we wanted, if that makes sense. Like, my opinion on the state of how Division 2 is right now, it's in a bad place, man. Like, there's game modes in this game that none of us are really interested in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, and I know for a lot of people, the Summit, Countdown, and these other small game modes, they just don't feel exciting at all. Like, we didn't really want this, and it's like most of the seasons that they add are just basically a duplicate of the last one. So it's like they're adding more seasons, more manhunts, but it's the same thing over and over again, just with a new character, new camos. Like, it's nothing crazy. Like, for me, for them to actually make this game more exciting and more playable would be like adding new weather options. Like, for example, you go outside into the Dark Zone and it's snowing, like a snowstorm or like a sandstorm, or something that's different and just makes the players feel like, yeah, this is refreshing. So every time we go in there, it's not the same sort of weather. Like, what about new global events? Like, this is what I'm saying. Things like this added to the game constantly. New Dark Zone maps, new conflict maps. Like, I don't play conflict that much, but if we had more maps for that game mode, I would love this game even more, especially a different Dark Zone map. Imagine having a Dark Zone right in New York, just like how we had Division 1. Do a Dark Zone in Brazil or the favelas. I don't care where it is. Just make sure that it's refreshing for old players or returning players and new for the new players. Like, that's all we want with a game like this, man. Like, guys, can you actually imagine them adding buffs to the weak talents in the game? Like, really think about it. All the talents in this game, well, most of the talents in this game are useless in PvP. Can you imagine all the talents that we don't use had a buff and actually made it valuable in PvP? Can you see where the diversity would come from? Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's so much things in the game that are not usable, and a developer, well, from my side of things, a gaming developer would want to make sure that all the items and all the talents within this game that are available should also be available in other game modes that are given to us. So like from PvE, you should be able to use that talent the same way you should be able to use it in PvP to make things more balanced and to give all of that diversity within the player base. Like, do you guys agree with me or not? Like, we could go into so many things about quality of life in a Division 2. Let me give you an example, yeah? Inventory stash space. Can we just increase that number? That's all I'm asking. Is it that hard to increase a number? Like, I don't know what gaming developing is like. Like, is it hard to just change that number from stash 300 to, let's just say, 800? Like, is it really that hard? You know, your inventory from 150 to 300. Like, just little things like this is gonna improve the game naturally. Like, within these new seasons that drop, you could add these features in to make new players and returning players actually enjoy the game way more than they already are. Like, guys, let's be real. How many times have you run into Lincoln Memorial? Where are the new missions? No new missions. We have to run the same old missions over and over again when we want that targeted loot. And it's like, we just need a refreshing update every time a new season is brought to the game. That's all I'm asking. Something refreshing, something new within these things that I've mentioned. It can just improve the quality of life of how the Division 2 is being played and how much fun you can have whilst playing the game. It's simple as that. These little things do matter. And if you don't think it does, then you just don't know how this franchise works. I'll be so real. So, as some of you should know, the Division Heartland has been cancelled. And I'm sure you all know about this already, but I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. It was a disappointment, not gonna lie to you. It was very demotivating seeing all of them posts on Twitter, all over YouTube. That's all I could see on my timeline when I logged into my Division YouTube account. I was very, very upset about it because it was a good game. I enjoyed the closed beta. I loved the way the movement was, the different type of mechanics they had in there, like the sliding. I feel like it could have benefited the franchise in a way. Most games that are displayed as free, you get a lot of traction and a lot of people wanting to test out this game and see what it's about. Let me give you an example. Fortnite, when that dropped and it was for free, same category, Battle Royale, everyone jumped on that. Even if you wasn't a shooter and you wasn't good at shooting, like, or if you wasn't good at a third person game, everyone was playing it, so you just hop on it. And it became a trend. It was like, yo, Fortnite this, Fortnite that. And I feel like this franchise really could have been pushed up to a different level because you'd get players that are not from the Division playing the Division Heartland, which would have then brought more players not only to Heartland, but then bringing them to the actual franchise, the Division. People would have bought the Division 1 and said, oh, okay, so this is the game from the Division Heartland. Let's play Division 1, completed Division 1, maybe gone in the dark zone a little bit and said, okay, cool, let me play Division 2, the updated one that everyone is playing right now, and gone on to there. And the franchise, I feel like, would have been pushed up way more. Like, when I actually first played the Division Heartland, it gave me a different experience of PvP, and it just made it way more exciting than what I was seeing in the Division 2. So the structure that it had was so good that it gave the Division a different insight. I don't know how to explain it, but the PvP experience was incredible. What did happen was the more closed betas that came out and the more playtests that was actually released kind of shifted to PvE. And I did realize that on the last one I played, and it was like, it was kind of moving to more so PvE and trying to showcase the PvE side of things. So we didn't really see much of that PvP focus, if that makes sense. And that's the only bad thing that I could say about Heartland, is that they wasn't too sure on where to go with the franchise for that game. It was like they were stuck between, shall we make this PvE or shall we make this PvP? And it was like a forever occurring thing where they were just kind of going in circles every time they released a playtest. So it was just a little bit confusing, and that could be one of the reasons why it was cancelled as well, to be quite honest with you. And I'm not saying that this is for definite, but it could be that they replaced Heartland for XDefiant. Now that is a big accusation, but it's just like, the way I see it is they've dropped Heartland and then now they've released XDefiant, and that game, from what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing all over the place, is just like, you know, it's worth the while to play for about 2 hours. You just come off. It's not really exciting. And in my opinion, I feel like if they don't add anything that's extremely valuable to that game, like a huge game mode or something, the viewership of that game, the players, everything is gonna just drop. It will drop massively. It could be the reason why we're not getting Heartland, and that would be crazy. If that is the case, that is very sad. We did end up finding out that Division Heartland was just gonna be a game mode inside of Division 2. If they did that, I feel like it definitely would have took off in a good way, because they would have got people to download the Division 2 on top of that. That would have helped the franchise as well, and potentially would have just brought more players to this franchise. But with Division 3, I have big hopes, but at the same time, I'm being very aware. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I had a little conspiracy that maybe the Heartland release could be put into Division 3. What I want with Division 3 is to have Division 1 and Division 2 elements mixed together, but of course with their new ideas and their new features put into Division 3 to make a game that is gonna be wonderful. So that's what I would like, man. In all honesty, I would like to have 40% Division 1, Division 2, and then 60% Division 3 features, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I hope that does. If they provide us with the right things and they look into maybe what they've done wrong with the 2 Division games and what they can improve on, trust me, I think we're looking at a very good release. And you know, when people say you can't mess up for the 3rd time, or you know, 3rd time lucky, or you got 3 more goes, I feel like this is the 3rd chance that everyone is waiting for to see what they can actually do with this game and this franchise in general. But for me, man, with this channel, I'm just hoping to always still push Division content here and there until the new release drops, which is of course Division 3. And then, you know, I would be able to constantly drop content for this franchise. So for example, when Division 3 releases, I would hope to drop, like I said, 3 videos a week, you know, so that would be like 12 videos a month. I would love to do that for you guys, but right now, in terms of the actual franchise, like, I haven't been dropping, but if I do decide to drop videos again, I would do like 3 a month, honestly. So that is the future for me in terms of gaming and this industry and content creating itself. That's where my mind is at right now for this franchise specifically. But I just really hope that we get something we can look forward to, enjoy, and still get that feel for, like we always do with this franchise. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video and you got a lot of context out of it, and you feel like I've broken down a few things that kind of make sense, or you related to some things that I was saying, then feel free to subscribe if you're not already, and hit the like button if you want me to drop a few new videos here and there about this franchise, or me actually playing, gameplay, build videos. Just let me know, man, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you for always rocking with your boy, supporting me, subscribing, all that stuff, man. I still see you guys comments on my old videos, like every week you guys are commenting. So it's been Division Addiction. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.